Hey, what's cracking everybody? Welcome back to Computer Games Hardware. Today on the channel, it's here guys, the 24.1.1 drivers. You guys have been waiting for it and it is a massive one. So we're not going to muck around, we're going to dive straight into it. But before we do, you might notice my computer's off. Apologies about that. My AIO is dying. So in the next video, we're going to be swapping that out for an air cooler while we get a replacement going for that. So stay subscribed for that. Get subscribed. Like, share, and subscribe. Thank you guys very much for watching. And hello if you're new here. We're doing the driver review now, so let's get stuck into it. As you might know, guys, these drivers haven't been updated since early December, and it was hinted recently in the news and at CES that these drivers were coming, and they were introducing all the new features that were in the preview drivers while AMD was working through those. So it's finally here. That's why this driver is so stacked. It's got all the fluid motion frames stuff integrated into it. So we're going to take a look at it. We're going to explain how it all works. So some of you who have been using the preview drivers might be familiar with a lot of that stuff. For the rest of us, this is all new and exciting. So there's plenty to get through. So grab yourself a cup of coffee or a cup of tea, strap in because this is going to be a big one, guys. So there's plenty to get through. There's new feature highlights. There's some explainer section. There's some fixed issues, some known issues, and then there's some important notes. So without further ado, let's get stuck into it. All right, as usual, we start with the new feature highlights, and really good to see that there is some new game support for Like a Dragon, Infinite Wealth, and Tekken 8. So even with so much going on in this driver, we've squeezed in some new game support. 2 games I'm really looking forward to as well. So if you've been keeping up with some of our CES content on Computer Games Hardware, you might know that the release of these drivers coincide with the release of the RX 6700 XT, which is similar to the previous 6700, but this one's got 16 gigabytes of memory. So they've been released. That's releasing today. So if you're looking for a nice little entry card, that's available for you now as well. So check that out. I'd go and have a look at some of the reviews first, but there you go. So there's some new driver support for that card as well in these drivers. All right, so the biggest new feature highlight is AMD Fluid Motion Frames. Biggest new feature in this driver package is AMD's Fluid Motion Frames. So let's get stuck into what that means. Boost FPS up to 97% for a smoother gaming experience by adding frame generation technology to any DirectX 11 and DirectX 12 game. Fluid Motion Frames improves performance by adding frame generation technology to AMD Radeon 700M laptops, RX 6000 and RX 7000 series GPUs for notebook and desktop platforms. Up to 97% average increase in performance across selected titles at 1080p resolution when AMD's Fluid Motion Frames is on and upscaled with Fidelity FX Super Resolution 2. At quality mode, using AMD software Adrenalin Edition 24.1.1 on the Radeon RX 7600 XT GPU versus when AFMF and FSR2 upscaling are off. All right, so that is a bold claim. We're going to have to test that in a later video. All right, up to 103 average increase in performance across select titles at 1440p resolution when AMD Fluid Motion Frames is on and upscaled with Fidelity FX Super Resolution 2 at quality mode using AMD software Adrenalin Edition 24.1.1 on the Radeon RX 6700 XT GPU versus cases when AFMF and FSR2 upscaling are off. Again, really bold claims. Really, that 103 average FPS boost. So we've got a lot of testing to do. Fluid motion frames preserves image quality by dynamically disabling frame generation during fast visual motion. So there's another little feature tucked in under there. Next up, we've got AMD video upscaling. Advanced video upscaling algorithm to improve video playback image quality for AMD Radeon RX 7000 series desktop GPUs. The AMD video upscaling can be enabled within the graphics tab to enjoy improved sharpness and clarity for DirectX 11 applications such as Google Chrome, Microsoft Edge, media players with resolution up to 4K. So for more instructions on how to enable upscaling, please ensure that your version software is up to date, and you can learn more by clicking the community link notice. So there is a link there for you to follow, which I will release in the show notes. There are also some additional video improvements. Content adaptive machine learning, which is called CAM-L. Text detection has been updated to support up to 4K gaming for even greater clarity. Various encoding support within AMD software, including AVC, HEVC, and AV1 codecs, have undergone additional optimizations for improved video encode quality. Various encoding support within AMD software, including AVC, HEVC, and AV1 codecs, have undergone additional optimization to improve video encode quality. So for me, I'm really happy about that one too. AMD continues to work with partners to implement video enhancements into third-party apps. More updates to follow in the coming drivers. That's good to know, and I like that they're also letting us know where some improvements are coming further down the line. So that's good, keeping us more informed. So I like these version of the driver releases, and hopefully they continue to do them like this, and we get less driver updates but more improvements. Next up, we've got the Smart Technology tab. Some of you might already be aware of this if you've had the preview drivers, but AMD have introduced the Smart Technology tab. So access the suite of great A+A features from one convenient location to maximize the power of your AMD powered system. There's also the AMD Assistant. Automatically enable or disable AMD software features based on various situations for improved performance and battery life. And then we've got some additional OS support. Support for hardware accelerated GPU scheduling has been extended to the RX 7600 series of GPUs on Windows 11, 12 version 22H2 and newer. So it's got a little bit of a Microsoft dev post there, which will be in the show notes that will be linked in the description below. So that's pretty good. All the new Windows updates going to be featuring better hardware acceleration. So hopefully that minimizes some of the hardware glitches and things that we have throughout Windows, which has been a little bit of an issue on AMD graphics cards. All right, now, so because this drive is so big, we've got a what to know section. So they're just giving you a little bit of a rundown of what to expect for these drivers and some of the features. So first up is fluid motion frames. Fluid motion frames can be enabled for any DirectX 11 and DirectX 12 title using HyperRX. Fluid motion frames may introduce additional latency to games and may not offer the optimal experience for fast-paced competitive titles. Fluid motion frames is recommended to be combined with AMD Radeon anti-lag to reduce in-game latency while maintaining minimum FPS at 60 FPS. Okay, so for those fast-paced titles, you've got your Call of Duties, Valorant, and all things like that. Even check if fluid motion frames is for you in those competitive titles. You might want to bump down your resolution a little bit and get some more frames the old-fashioned way, but there's certainly an opportunity for tests. So anti-lag has not been consistent for me when I've tested it. I've tested it in titles like Street Fighter 6, and in some cases I've gained a little bit of latency. So we'll just have to do some more testing as these drivers mature. Fluid motion frames must be manually manually enabled in the per game settings for certain fast-paced competitive titles, even if fluid motion frames was already enabled globally. Gamers are free to enable fluid motion frames in these titles based on their preference and gameplay styles. So AMD have taken it even one step, and they've identified those titles where fluid motion frames might not be suitable, and they've turned it off. So you have to go in and select it in the in-game setting. So there's a global setting and then there's an in-game setting. So we can have a look at that when we get the new cooler into the old girl behind me. We will do a little bit of a demonstration on all these features as well. Fluid motion frames may be enabled or disabled on the fly using the default hotkey Alt, Shift, and G. So that's a pretty good one to remember. Alt, Shift, G. I'll have to get that into my finger muscle memory, so when I want to turn some things on, because this might look amazing in Cyberpunk, but not so much in Modern Warfare 3 or games like that. So being able to turn it on and off pretty quickly is a big bonus for me. Here's also an important note for you guys. Fluid motion frames currently requires the game to be played in full screen mode with VSync disabled. For better compatibility with borderless full screen titles, Windows 11 users can enable optimizations for Windows games, and there's a link to a Microsoft post on how to do that, and again we can also show you that in a later video. For a better visual experience, fluid motion frames is recommended to be used with variable refresh rate enabled. Pretty straightforward there. Users can check fluid motion frame generation status using AMD software Adrenalin Edition in-game overlay. So if you've got a hotkey to enable your overlay, you'll be able to see the status of AFMF. Fluid motion frames adds frame generation technology to boost FPS outside the game's engine. Users can use the AMD software performance metrics overlay to see the resulting FPS. Support for third-party performance monitoring tools is not available currently, so that's unfortunate, but that should come with time as they mature. That will come. For systems set up using hybrid graphics, such as laptops featuring integrated and discrete GPUs, fluid motion frames must be supported on the displaying GPU to be activated. And stay tuned for further enhancements and innovations coming to HyperRX, with fluid motion frames focusing on elevating image quality, smoothness, and latency. Enjoying gaming with HyperRX. Pretty cool. There's a little bit more to know about the video upscaling. AMD video upscaling can be enabled for most DirectX 11 applications to improve image quality. However, certain applications such as Google Chrome, Microsoft Edge may require an additional step to activate AMD video upscaling. For Google Chrome and Microsoft Edge, Media Foundation for Clear must be enabled. This setting can be configured in the browser settings and accessed through Chrome. Yeah, so those settings, as Microsoft Edge is a Chromium-based web browser as well, so they will both have those features, even though it doesn't mention Microsoft Edge. It's a Chromium-based web browser, so those features will be there in the settings, and you just have to turn them on. How useful they really are and the improvements of visual qualities, I don't know quite yet. We'll have to take a look at that. Users have the flexibility to adjust the level of sharpness added by AMD video upscaling using the slider located within the graphics tab. So pretty straightforward. So it's got some notes about the technical preview driver as well. Users have the opportunity to get an early look at fluid motion frames through the AMD technical preview drivers and provide their feedback to build and refine the feature. The feedback received through our online communities and AMD bug report tool is being shared here, and there's a link for you to access again, which will be in the show notes. Users looking for updates for future AMD technical preview drivers can subscribe to the newsletter. So that's how you get the preview drivers, and it's got a link to subscribe to the newsletter. So if you've ever wondered how you get those preview drivers, because a lot of people in the comments were asking me, how do you get the preview drivers? Where can I get it from? Stuff like that. You subscribe to the newsletter. I've got some content creator tools, so I get the link a little bit early. So if you want it and you're not not sure how to get it, just give me a shout out, or you can subscribe to the newsletter. All right, so we're about halfway there, guys. So lots to learn about the new drivers and fluid motion frames. So hopefully it's nice and stable, and we're going to start playing around with it shortly. Let's move on to the fixed issues. There's a couple of fixed issues on the board, so let's get through them. Performance drop may be observed on some DirectML workloads. That's been there for a little while, I believe. There's also intermittent grey screen after driver upgrade with certain monitors such as the Nexus NX ED G27 4K on Radeon 7000 series GPUs. So sucks to be that one owner of that specific monitor. If that's you, let me know in the comments down below. Sorry, mate. Graphics API metrics may show NA on certain UWP applications. UWP is Universal Windows Platform, so some Windows platforms may have an NA on the metrics overlay if you leave it on. Heavy stuttering may be experienced while playing Warframe and loading into a new area or starting a new mission. Black artifacts may be observed in smoke effects while playing Call of Duty Modern Warfare 3. So, little issue with Modern Warfare 3 playing. Hey, who's playing Modern Warfare 3? Is it worth getting? I held off. I switched out my Modern Warfare purchase for Like a Dragon this year, and to be honest, I haven't missed it. But if you think it's worth getting, let me know in the comments down below. Black texture flickering may be observed while playing Starfield on some AMD graphics products such as the Radeon RX 5600 XT. There's been a ton of improvements to Starfield, and there is a big update coming down the pipe as well. So there might be an opportunity to re-review Starfield with some of its new features coming down the line on Computer Games Hardware, guys. And finally, on the fixed issues, intermittent install feature may be observed when using the factory reset setting. So that's another little cool thing. The factory reset setting is also back, so that is good news as well. All right, that's it for the fixed issues. Let's get on to the known issues. Deathloop may experience some extended loading times on some AMD graphics products, such as the Radeon RX 6900 XT. Resolution is targeted for 24.2.1, so that is really good to see. So we spoke a little bit before about how it's good that they're updating us on what's to come, but in the known issues they're actually telling us what driver edition that they plan to resolve the issues by. So I really like that, and I really hope that they keep up with that. That's fantastic to see. It also gives you an indication that there's not going to be a intermittent driver improvement unless it's really needed. So this one says 24.2.1, so it doesn't say 24.1.2, which would be a really small increase. So there's not one likely to come in the last couple of days of January. It will be in the next month's driver update. So that's good to know. Dead Space may experience an application crash after enabling RATO on some AMD graphics products such as the Radeon 6800. Dead Space had a number of issues with AMD graphics cards upon release. I had a ton of issues with it. I still love that game. It was on my top 10 for the year, but what kept it down was some of the performance issues. So still experiencing that, particularly on some of the non-XT cards, but hopefully there's a resolution for that shortly. It doesn't say that there's a target for that one, but that's probably because Dead Space has been plagued with issues from the very beginning. Excessive stuttering may be experienced when first playing a match in Overwatch 2, and the resolution targeted for the 24.2.1 drivers as well. So lots of fixes coming in the next drivers that we can look forward to. Audio may intermittently become out of sync with the video when recording on AMD software Adrenalin driver using the AV1 codec. You guys know that this is has been annoying me for a little while, but the resolution is targeted for Q2. So they've got a little bit to get that one fixed, but it's good to see that's coming as well. Oculus Rift S may display with a green tint on AMD RX 7000 series GPUs. There is no resolution for that at this point, but actually pretty good to see that they're addressing some issues for VR gamers. Next up, after system reboot, Parsec host application may experience a crash on some AMD graphics products, such as the Radeon 7900 XTX. Resolution is targeted for 24.2.1. Almost there, guys. During Microsoft Teams meetings, the camera may intermittently display looped footage on some AMD products, such as the Ryzen 7 7840U processor. So that's the APU playing up, and probably the fluid motion frames and the frame generation playing some tricks on it there, and the processor not being able to keep up. So keep an eye out on that if you've got an APU. So they're specifically calling out the Ryzen 7 7840U, but if you have an APU, I suspect that might be an issue across the board. So let me know in the comments down below if you're running one of the newer AMD APUs, and you might run into this issue as well. Last but not least, guys, on selected hybrid graphics configurations, fluid motion frames may be inaccurately displayed or absent, particularly in systems where one of the devices lacks support for fluid motion frames, and the resolution is targeted for the next drivers, which is the 24.2.1. So again, that is systems like laptops with discrete and integrated graphics, where one of those the integrated graphics may not support fluid motion frames. So look out for that, and make sure you just switch it over to the discrete graphics, which has the support for them. So that would be almost any RDNA2 graphics, I would suggest. Your APU says that it's got Radeon graphics. It's likely to have RDNA2 graphics in it, so it should be supported. Last but not least, guys, we're here at the end. We've got some important notes to get through, so let's go into it. We've mentioned this before. AMD given us a heads up before, but users that game remotely with AMD Link, one important announcement is that AMD is ending support for the AMD Link software. We originally launched AMD Link at the time where there were few alternative remote gaming solutions for Radeon graphic users. Today, there are many options available for users to stream their PC content to other devices. AMD's role is to enable and support developers, not compete with them. As such, we are ending support for AMD Link and focusing our resources on other core capabilities and features that benefit us. We will also continue to support developers with our SDKs, such as the AMD Advanced Media Framework, and they go into what the advanced framework is with a link there that you can look at, the description below. Okay, so AMD Link is a good little way to connect your PC to a TV, but yeah, there's Steam Link, there's a whole bunch of other applications. Cloud gaming is becoming massive features now, so probably not being used much for AMD. All right, also, users who previously installed the preview drivers, running the cleanup utility is recommended before installing the new driver. So anyone that had the previous preview drivers installed might want to run the AMD cleanup utility before installing these new drivers. And last but not least, and probably my favorite note out of all these release notes, AMD Software Adrenalin Edition 24.1.1 will now automatically clear previously installed drivers located in the C AMD folder to save space. So this is fantastic news, and it was driving me up the wall. Some of these installs can be upwards of 50 gig, and they were piling on top of each other in the AMD folder which was hidden away for some users, and they couldn't explain why they were getting such big storage space issues. So we kept saying we were going to do the AMD cleanup utility drivers, but that's probably a moot point now, because AMD have automated that for you now, and you don't have to go in and remove the previous drivers when you install a new one. That'll be done automatically. Yeah, baby. So that is pretty good news. Fantastic for me. All right, so let's quickly talk about the performance on these drivers. As far as I can tell, and unfortunately I could only play a couple of titles just really quickly with my AAO screaming at me as it unfortunately dies, but the performance looks pretty good. Fluid motion frames is working as expected. I didn't have any stutter in titles like Cyberpunk, which you may have noticed in the preview drivers I had some issues with, which is why I kept to the vanilla drivers throughout the back end of 2023. So looking pretty good so far. I also played around in Jedi Survivor. That looked pretty good as well. So everything seems to be performing as expected. I did notice one little annoying issue, which was also present in the previous drivers, but the notifications pop up every time. So when you reinstall the drivers and there is a welcome to the latest edition drivers by AMD, that continually popped up every time I opened the Adrenalin drivers. So AMD, that's really annoying. Can you please fix the notifications, because that's a holdover for the previous drivers for me. Otherwise looking pretty good. So pretty impressed with the performance. The new features are working as expected, and I'm really looking forward to getting this PC fixed, so I can really deep dive into some of the performance of the new drivers. Anyway, that's going to do it for this one, guys. Thank you very much for watching. I should also mention that this video might be releasing on or close to Australia Day, so happy Australia Day for those who celebrate it. And I will see you guys in the next one. I love making these for you guys. I'll keep making them if you keep watching them, and I will see you guys in the next one. Thanks for watching. See you next time.